Welcome to Turn Your Drawing into Needle Punch Art. I'm going to tell you about some of the materials that I've been using, and I'm an illustrator and graphic designer, but I like to try new things, so I've been doing this for a few weeks, and I figure we could learn together. So this is the type of cloth that's used, and it's called a monk cloth or tufting cloth. Stretch it. So I stretch this like just a regular painting canvas, and you have to make sure it's pretty hard, tight. You could also use needlepoint rings as well, and then the yarn, you could use all different types of yarn, and yarn comes in different forms. If you're to order it online, this is called a cone, this is called a hank, this is a skein, I think that's how you say it, and this is a ball of yarn. I would recommend turning these things into this, or else it's gonna get all tangled up and you're not gonna be happy. So I went to this fancy place up here in Vermont called the Green Mountain Spinnery, and I got to see these old machines working. It was pretty cool. But they do organic yarns, and I like to take the yarn and just tape it to the back of the tag so I remember what the color's called, because it's kind of like paint chips at the hardware store. They have all these crazy colors. So this one is called grasshopper, and this one is pistachio. So there's the yarn. Oh, and so you could use any type of yarn, like acrylic or wool. If you're gonna make a rug, you should use wool yarn. It'll just be more durable. But you could use, natural or synthetic, and you could dye your own yarn, which I'm thinking about learning how to do, just to have more options with color. Because there's a lot of colored yarns, but it's not always the color you need. So, and you could ask, if you have friends that are knitters, you can ask them for leftover yarn if they had some from a sweater. I learned that trick from Rita in Tri-County B&B. She would ask everybody, do you crochet? And then she'd hit them up for yarn. It was a very good idea. Well, this is a needle punch. So a lot of people use a needle punch called an Oxford punch, which looks a little bit different. That one has a wooden handle and it threads from the side, but I like this one because it's got these different adjustments, so the needle gets longer, so your loops will get longer when you're working. So there's that, and I'll show you how to thread it. So it's got like this it's like fishing string. It's almost invisible, that's why I put this little piece of yarn on it. So you feed it through the top, I hope I'm doing this, you can see it. Then you put that through the loop, and you see that, you pull it, and then you have to pull this. Oops, you gotta feed this through the, I don't know. I try to stay behind camera. Okay, oops. And then, see, I'm pulling that through. Okay, so there you go, Bob's your uncle. That's how you do it. Take your needle punch tool and push it down into the cloth. Then you're gonna come around to the back and pull the string out. leave a little bit. Come back to the front, and then you hold it like a pen. And whichever way you want to go, you should have the opening facing. So I want to go up, so I have the opening facing that way. And you punt and you press down until it stops. So press it all the way down. You come up just a little bit, press down again, come up again, press down again, and try to do it so it's perpendicular, so the pen is perpendicular to the cloth. And then if I want to change directions, I'll turn it while it's in the cloth. So turn it to the right. So now I'm going to go across this way. It's easy. You punch down. Sometimes you'll run into a part where the stitches aren't staying, and maybe it's because you're not pushing down far enough, or maybe the cloth is too loose. But for the most part, it's pretty easy and fun, and you should try it. Thank you. I really like when I've been filling in an area and I'm almost done with it. You're filling in the very last part. Very satisfying. Here it is. Couple more rows. And then push it through and pull it through the other side and cut it off. If you like to draw, look through your sketchbook and see what you have, and I would recommend choosing a drawing that you really love, because you're going to be working on this thing for a while. So love your drawing, and then you're going to do color studies too. So here's, I like to, I love to just lay in the hammock and get real quiet and then listen to the wind and the leaves and the frogs. And if you're real quiet, you could hear birds' wings flapping, and you could see groundhogs and stuff. So that's one of my favorite things about coming up here to Vermont. So then did some more drawings, and this is just basically the same concept, but this is playing around with composition. And this is I'm on Lake Sadaga, and there was a legend of, well, Chief Sadaga lived around here, but the legend was that he'd camp on the shores of Lake Sadaga, and then this lake has a floating island, which is pretty rare. So he would swim underneath the floating island. So here's a color study for that. But you can make your color studies real loose, because you're just trying to map out color. So here's one I did of groundhogs walking by. I did that drawing last year, but I did the color study this week. And then I was thinking about frogs, and how much I love them. And if you leave your window open at night, you can hear them, and I think they're having a big party. And then after I drew that, I went to the flea market, and I found this, and I loved it so much. It's a color lithograph from an old book. If you're not a drawer and you don't want to draw, if you just want to try needle punch, but you don't have any drawings, you could get a kit. So this is, I found this on an old yarn, but it's a craft from the 70s, I believe. It's a turkey. So maybe you could look up on Google and find some old kind of campy crafts from the 70s. And this tail is raised. I don't know if you can see. Here's Lake Sadaga. So I should tell you about the different sides. So they actually consider this the back, like whichever side you work from, traditionally is considered the back, and it's flatter, and you could see the stitches. But on the other side, it looks like this. So this is considered the front. Here's the dog, and so what I want to say is, if you're using the back side as the front, like I like to do, you don't have to invert your drawing. But if you like to work from the back, if you're working from this side and this is the front, you'll have to invert your drawing so it's a mirror image. And it's kind of such a nice medium, because as you're working you can like touch this, and it's so relaxing and meditative. I recommend this. Oh, I want to tell you about Wave Pool. You know all about them if you're watching this, but for you should give them some money for their fundraising campaign, because they're doing pretty amazing things all the time in Camp Washington, and local Cincinnati artists. I've had so many opportunities that I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for Wave Pool. So I'm really grateful for them and all the cool work that they do. So I'm gonna put that drawing on there with a Sharpie. And this is pretty big, and I found after I stretched it, maybe it's too big, so I'm gonna use half of it. So I'm gonna, so if you're a super particular person, which is good to be, you might want to project your image onto here so you get it just right. I feel like my drawings are pretty loose, and I'm not too worried about it. I could change it up at different points. So here I am, just drawing this guy here. Going for the super realistic frog. This will be kind of my nephew Billy loves to catch frogs. We were just doing that the other day. So if you made a mistake or you're really thinking something doesn't work, you could pull the yarn out because it's not glued yet. So I'm taking this yarn. I think that this area is too dark, so I'm gonna pull it out, which is actually a lot of fun. But it's a pain because it takes a while to do this, so but there you go. And then you could kind of rub it and it helps to heal the cloth. After a while, if you keep pulling out yarn, it'll get pretty beat up, but I've pulled out areas and was able to work with them, and it worked fine. And why don't you go to my website, and maybe I'll be done with the frog. Well, I forgot to tell you too, you could make rugs, pillows, wall hangings, clothes, a lot of stuff. out of needle punch art. Thank you for watching and support Waple. Thank you.